Economic Development Committee of March 15th. On the committee are Michael Connor, Gladys Blackmore, John Lainers, and Mayor Clayton. I'm calling the meeting to order. We do have a delegation who submitted a form to come and see us, and I'd like to call to the table George and Jocelyn Mahan. You can remove your masks if you so choose, just so that's easy. Pull the mic a little closer to yourselves. And so go ahead. You have 5 minutes to speak, and then I'll allow council to ask you questions, and we'll go from there. So.
Good morning. I'd just like to thank council for taking the time to listen to our, I guess it is a complaint. We are, like Mike said, we are Jocelyn and George Mahan. We live at 9707 62nd Avenue in Grande Prairie here. We've lived there for 26 years. For 26 years, we've been dealing with huge snow piles on our front lawn. And for some reason this year, it's gotten bigger than ever, along with great big, huge hunks of ice. I am 75, my wife is just about 71. We have health issues, and we're not able to deal with these big piles of ice anymore and snow. This has been going on for 26 years. We've just about every year, except for years when we haven't had much snow, it's been an issue. We've continually had to repair our lawn from the loaders and that digging big hunks out of it. We've had to go to the extent of buying sod and reseeding, and it's just been a continuing, ongoing problem. We have an underground sprinkler system. Several times they've actually chopped off the sprinkler heads. We've had to replace them, and it's like I say, we just can't deal with this big issue anymore. So we would like it to stop. So just for the information, it seems to me that it's quite a coincidence that the day that we're coming here to complain about this, they come to remove the pile off of our front lawn. So, but that is the big concern right now. But the ongoing concern is every year we've had to put up with this problem, and we would like it to cease. And there's a cul-de-sac out in front of our place that they could pile the snow there. One time they do that, then for some reason the next time they don't. I just don't understand what the difference is from one time to the next. So we would like something to be written in stone, I guess, as to this isn't going to happen to us in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having the courage to come and sit here and present your issue. So I'd like to extend it out to council members for questions. Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you for coming today. I'm sympathetic. We certainly have, every one of us who end up with snow on our lawn have these types of issues, and it's a struggle to find a solution. I don't know of any place in the world that is a perfect snow removal policy except for, I don't know, maybe Mexico. We are heading into a review of our own snow policy. So I just wanted a couple questions to clarify things. Have you, in the past, when you've had damage to your property, have you had compensation from the city for that damage?
1 year they sent a couple of students with a pickup with some black dirt in it and threw down some grass seed, which, by the way, didn't catch. I ended up having to do it myself. And one other year, they did replace one of the sprinkler heads. But other than that, that's the only compensation we've had from the city.
So my next question would be for Director Glavin. Do we have, what's the process for people to get help from the city when we're causing issues? And do we have any place else to put the snow there, given that we like to look after our senior citizens?
Thank you, Councillor Blackmore. So in this, if there's a cul-de-sac, typically that is where we would put the snow. I would have to look into the exact situation why it wouldn't have went into the cul-de-sac at this point, if they had run out of snow storage, or what the issue is, or if the contractor in that area just, for whatever reason, didn't think to put it in. But that is something we'll talk to the contractor about and get rectified. My understanding is that today they were in that area, as it is the regular snow removal day for the Mahans in that area. As far as getting compensation or anything repaired on property, we'd encourage people to report it in through 311, so contacting the contact center, and then they can be routed to the appropriate intertransportation, where they would make arrangements and investigate to see if the damage was caused by city crews or contractors.
And just to follow up with that question, there should be the ability for an insurance claim if the damage is more than insignificant, correct?
Through the chair, it would depend upon what the damage was. So that would require us to go out. If it was over a certain threshold, perhaps, but likely we would pay directly to fix it if it was caused by us or our crews.
It's one of those issues, really, where you have a continuous amount of damage over years. So while the damage this year or last year or next year may not be significant, the damage over the 20 years that they've been in their location becomes quite significant. So I think we need to be more aware of individuals' needs in the community and try and meet those better. I don't know where to go with that next. Refer it back to the snow removal policy, perhaps.
Yes, I recognize Councillor Lainers.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for coming today. Habits can be hard to break, so they probably got the same person that's been piling it on that corner for forever and ever, so it's unfortunate. And hopefully, a talking to or some clarification around that will help. Would there be any advantage for having a winter sign that says "Don't pile the snow there" in that particular spot, or would you feel kind of weird having a little sign there or something? I don't know. I'm just trying to look for solutions, I guess.
Well, I know our neighbor that's down on the opposite end of the street as from where we are. He's put up a fence, a snow fence, different things, and they've actually just piled the snow and actually crushed his fence. So we haven't went that far, but we've actually sent letters a couple of times, to ask for help to repair the lawn and stuff like that. And we were actually told, we'll come and have a look at it, but the chances are that anything is going to be done about it are slim to none. So the other comment that I would like to make is with this year, we actually, when we filed the complaint, we were told that they would have somebody come around and have a look at it, and we never saw anybody. They didn't come to the door. I don't know if that's the policy or not, but they didn't come to the door or anything. And we never heard anything back. And the next time that we called on it, they said that they'd sent somebody around, but there was no issue. And then shortly after we called and talked to them, we seen on the on the email that they'd closed the complaint. So
Yeah, frustrating for sure. Appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just slip in just for a second. I personally went down there and visited the site, and the Mahans had contacted me, and so they're very, very frustrated because no one did come and see them. I think on the day after, I think Wade Nellis came down and talked to you. Is that correct?
yeah, I can't remember what the gentleman's last name was. I remember his first name was Wade, so it's quite possible that's what his last name was. But
Next in the queue is Councillor Thiessen, then Councillor Bosch.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair O'Connor, and thanks so much for coming in, George and Jocelyn. Appreciate it. Just a question for you both, just where your house is situated. So I'm looking at the pictures here, and one of them, it appears that it's like right up your driveway. That's just one of the pictures. I'm not sure if that is, but I just want to, just a question in regards to maybe why they pile the snow, and then I'll probably have a question for administration. Do you have a public utility lot or an alleyway right beside your house? And is that, or
there's an alleyway behind our place.
well, behind, but not like right beside, like in access?
No.
Okay, no, thank you for that. I guess my next question is for Director Glavin. Now, I'm aware that in some areas of town, there's actual residents who say, yeah, pile the snow up on my lawn. It's cool. I know Mount View, there's a few yards that act as snow storage there, but typically that's agreed upon with the snow removal people and the owners of the house. Why are we piling all this snow onto properties without permission?
Through the chair. So ultimately, within the snow removal policy, we pile the snow on boulevards. So in front of everybody's house, there is almost invariably a city portion of land that is part of the road that we utilize for snow storage. Otherwise, if we piled it on the road, we'd have either no parking on the road or we'd have a very narrow lane to get down. So it would be difficult for cars to pass in a year like this where we've had a significant amount of snow. As far as piling snow on people's front yards when they've asked us to do so, I'm not actually aware of that as a general rule. I think that's probably a one-off that somebody grabbed an operator and said, put more snow here. That's not an official city policy, and there's no path that we would have to request that.
Okay, so in regards to this, now I've seen snow piles like this in Mount View, and I did knock on the doors and I asked, and yeah, they said, yeah, no, I just went out and said, pile more on there. We don't mind, like, get it off the road, get it off the sidewalk. At what point do we tell our grader operators enough's enough, especially on other people's property? Like, I know we have the first 3 feet where we can store that snow, but this looks like, I don't know, 15 feet and at least 6 feet high. So, at what point do we tell them to pull back the plows and stop pushing snow on someone's yard?
Through the chair, I think in this case that if this is a scenario that's happening over and over again, we need to get the contractors to put the snow somewhere else. So if there is in fact a cul-de-sac there that is of a significant size that you could put it in the middle and not restrict traffic flow, then that is likely where it should go. However, we'll take a look at that and see if that is a possibility in this area to mitigate this. At some point, you do run out of room. If you have successive snowfalls, as we did, this year we did have to truck away some snow from cul-de-sacs this year because we didn't have significant width to get cars around. That's not a typical condition. So, there's some unique circumstances here, but it sounds like this has been happening to this particular property for a while, so we'll take a look at it and try to rectify this issue going forward.
Awesome, great to hear. Thanks, Director Glavin.
Thank you. Mayor Clayton's online, and then Councillor Bosch. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair O'Connor. I just want to thank the Mahans for coming today. It sometimes can be difficult to come and speak on camera and speak all of council, but it's really important for people to come out and to take advantage of this opportunity. First, I can tell you there is never intent within our organization to not respond to concerns. Your concerns have been repeated, and it's unfortunate that you don't feel that they were handled. So I apologize that they weren't handled appropriately, it appears. But I can tell you that it's never our intent to damage someone's property and not rectify that, to not take care of concerns and issues. People's concerns and issues are council's and the organization's highest priority. And so I apologize that you feel that they weren't handled appropriately. In regards to the amount of snow, I'm sure you can appreciate that this has been an unusual snow year. It appeared that there was a regular cycle of snowfall, melting, freezing, snowfall, melting, freezing. So that in turn did not make snow removal easy this year. That in addition to the volume of snow we received on multiple snow events, it made it extremely difficult to remove snow in a sort of normal, if you want to say, manner. So there was some extraordinary circumstances, and it appears based on your photos that your lawn was unfortunately one of those extraordinary circumstances. What I suggest here is that, committee and council will ask you questions, get some information. Then we'll have discussions with our administration and Director Glavin. As Councillor Blackmore mentioned, we are in the middle of a process where we will see snow removal revisited shortly. And so it'll come back to council for a check-in, as well as an opportunity for council to make changes to the existing policy that in turn will be implemented for next year. So input from people like yourself is extremely important and perfectly timely as we look into reviewing this snow removal model. So again, I appreciate you coming here. I can empathize with you. I live in a cul-de-sac, and there are days that sometimes the snow is piled in the cul-de-sac, sometimes it's on my lawn, and as Director Gladys mentioned, the way that the boulevards work, we don't actually need permission to put snow on people's boulevards. However, the issue is when we get significant amount of snow, it spills onto your lawn. I do encourage you that every single year you have an issue, any damage, that you use the appropriate process and get that, that yard work, whatever that may be, fixed by the city. That is our responsibility, and we do it if we've missed it and you've put in an application for it being fixed. Again, that's very unfortunate, and I apologize for that. But I really just wanted to thank you for coming here today, and council will have further discussions on this, and I'm sure that if administration doesn't follow up with you, one of us will. So thanks again for coming today.
Okay, I recognize Councillor Bosch, and then I will have some closing comments.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. Thank you for coming in today. I have confidence that this will get resolved. Like, with you being here and your calls and enough's enough, I get it. My question, though, is a bit more about a precursor because of the number of years you've had to deal with this. And it goes in regards to communication. So are you currently using the contact center, dialing 311? Is that how you contact the city now?
Yes.
And have you had responses within the next day or 2 days?
I phoned and I talked to, I believe a lady's name was Amanda, and she told me to fill out the form and the complaint form, and I did that, and I never heard back for, I think it was 10 days or something like that. Well, when I talked to her, she said that they would be sending somebody around to have a look at it. And like I mentioned earlier, we never seen anybody, so I don't know if they just drove by and looked at it. So I phoned after about 10 days. I phoned back again, and she said that they had sent somebody around and looked at it, and they didn't think that there was an issue. So, and that's basically, I phoned this guy then, so.
I think that's something that as a council and as an organization we are working on or wanting to work on is a communication piece. And clearly that wasn't good enough communication to you both to getting this resolved. Because I think for me, if you had called in earlier in the year and this issue was dealt with, you wouldn't have 15 feet of ice right now, and it's unmanageable. So maybe taking care of things earlier on our part is what we need to be held more accountable to. And so I do think that we will progress in our communication skills. We all need that. So, but I'm confident that they'll look after you.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Yeah, the snow is some of it is being removed right now, but it's the ice that they put underneath that just sinks our lawn right in. Sprinkler systems don't do anything for us because it just sits.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I backed into my piece of ice that was beside my house. So yeah, I get it. It's everywhere. Yeah. But we'll have to resolve it. That's just the type of year it is. And, moving forward, maybe our communication will be better and it will resolve some of these issues that you're dealing with after the fact. So thank you for coming in.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Our cul-de-sac is big. Like they can put the snow in the middle there, and right behind our house, there's a park. They could put the snow there too.
Well, see, and you're communicating that now, like to us, that's all important.
We
So,
have communicated that.
okay, see,
They say
that's
it's-
where we need
they
to
say it's too
get a
far-
little
they
bit
say it's
better.
too far to push the snow to the park. Eh? It takes extra time to push the snow to the park.
Okay. It's fair,
Thank you.
and we'll talk about it.
Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out. I know that you're not the only ones, and it can be quite frustrating. But I have a couple of questions for Mr. Glavin. So I think,
Councillor
Councillor,
second, we'll take those questions afterwards to
Okay,
thing, and we'll finish
Thanks.
the delegation. It's unfair to
fair enough.
him through that. So my last comments, I have gone down there and I've driven the area. Their cul-de-sac is big enough to take all the snow, and when it gets too big, it can be hauled away. The neighbor at the far end of the street, I took some pictures of it, and I could share that with council. It is a large snow on their lawn as well, and there is room to do that. Must remind everyone that on that site, on that corner, is a fire hydrant. You couldn't find it until you got around the other side of the corner. So I think there are a number of issues here, and I know that Director Glavin and their department are going to work hard to find a solution. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for coming in, and thanks for being respectful. I think it's important that we sit down and work with you to solve this issue for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, questions for infrastructure and Director Glavin, please. Or should we leave that at the end of the minute? I'm looking for direction. Right now is good. Thank you. Director Burke? Yep.
Thank you. I've been promoted. Yeah. All right. So again, a couple questions for Mr. Glavin. I think Councillor Thiessen had said we have the first 3 feet of the yard. Is it not 10 feet?
No.
Through the chair, it varies by property. There's not a absolute set amount of boulevard in any. It varies throughout the city by development phase and standards at the time, road right-of-ways. There's quite a few variables.
Okay. And then the next one, I keep wondering about these sprinkler heads. I know my neighbor has one that's a foot from the sidewalk. Is there any permitting or anything that people need to do to put sprinkler systems in? I guess what I'm circling around to, is there some way that we could have these sprinkler heads set back, and rather than throwing the water towards the house, have it thrown the other way so that we're not damaging a number of sprinkler heads?
I might have to ask for a little bit of clarification, but regarding if somebody puts sprinkler heads within the road right-of-way, so in the city's boulevard, they wouldn't have had, it's unlikely they would have had permission to do so. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Councillor?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of developmental permits that you need for a variety of things. Is sprinkler and landscaping one of those?
Through the chair, that's a good question. I'm not sure off the top of my head if you need to get municipal approval to do a sprinkler system, but I don't believe you do.
Okay, so then it's up to the landscaper. I guess I'm just trying to figure out preventative maintenance on this so that we're not having sprinkler heads damaged, because it's going to happen.
Any other questions to Director Glavin? Okay, seeing none, I think this is a discussion we'll continue offline somewhere. And any other comments? None? Councillor Blackmore, oh my God, you got rage.
Can't wait to see my next paycheck. I think one of the things I'm concerned about is the fact that our delegation has not felt heard for several years. And I'm wondering if there's something we can do, perhaps Director Trim would want to respond to that, so that we can ensure that when people call 311, when they file a complaint, that someone actually talks to them and they feel heard.
Just 1 second, that question was to Director Trim.
Thank you, Councillor Blackmore. Through the chair, one of the functionalities of the new system that we have currently in the process of implementing is the ability to create profiles within our Access GP system. So I've directed our 311 contact center to reach out to the delegate and walk them through a process where they can create that profile, which allows them to see all of their submissions for service and track the status of those in a live manner.
Yes, Director, gee, I got Director on the brain. Thank you for that. Councillor Thiessen, then Councillor Bosch, and then we need to move on to other issues here. So,
Yeah, thanks, Director O'Connor. Appreciate it. I'm more of an actor than a director, though. I think Councillor Blackmore brings up a really great point here, especially in regards to communications. Lately, it seems we might have bugs in the system while we're trying to implement it. I know that over the last 10 days, I've received 4 phone calls, and largely it was communication from a variety of different departments where they had contacted the call center, made their complaint, and then didn't hear back, in some cases for months later. But when they did call back and they talked to someone at the contact center, they said that, well, this has already been dealt with. This is no longer an issue anymore because we sent people there on this date and it was all good. And I think the big problem is, at least in the 4 phone calls I received recently, and what these fine people here were saying, is that there's not a lot of contact back to the residents who call in the contact center. So there may be work getting done, but if you're not aware of it and you don't see very significant changes, that becomes an issue. So as part of our system, I think we need to work on that continuous improvement and ensure that our residents, when they call in, that they're receiving their feedback based on the work that they requested.
yeah, Director Trim.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. Through the chair, yes, one of the new components that we started to pilot about 2 weeks ago, we'll be pushing out in a more robust manner, is the citizen satisfaction surveys post-closing. So from this point forward, any service requests that are processed through the 311 contact center, upon closing, so upon the citizen receiving confirmation by email or text that their request has been closed, they will have the option to provide feedback back to us as administration on whether or not they're satisfied with that level of service, both within the contact center as well as an operational level. So we're hoping that that avenue will give us more timely feedback that we can analyze and review as we move forward in the efforts of continuous improvement.
Yeah, thank you. And again, yeah, making sure that we make that contact back. Communication is key to this. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, when they had checked back after the 10 days, they checked online and the case had been closed. So to their satisfaction, it wasn't closed. So then they redlined. Last question to Councillor Bosch, and then we're moving on.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. No, my comments were in line with earlier asking them about the 311 and Councillor Thiessen's comments here just recently. I think until you get your processes in where you want them to be for your contact center, perhaps these kit gloves need to be out there for the public. And if it takes someone calling them back versus them looking online, then that's what we do until our processes are running smoothly. You know, communication is key. You don't have issues with people when there is communication back and forth.
Thank you. We'll move on to Director's Service Area Report 3.1.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. We'll start with economic development. Since the last meeting, we've issued a number of economic recovery grants. We've had one training grant, a barrier-free grant, and two barrier-free grant projects were completed, resulting in 2 new accessible washrooms in the community. As well, with our development incentive grant program, we've had 2 residential infill grants approved in the Hillside area, as well as 2 municipal fee rebates approved. For new businesses, economic development attended 2 ribbon cuttings and distributed 4 congratulations cards to 4 new businesses. As well, our business retention expansion coordinator has initiated a new phone survey looking to get a little bit more intelligence on our current labor situation, and I'll be reporting back at some point in the next few weeks on what the results of that were. In environment, we were successful in obtaining a watershed resilience and restoration grant from Alberta Environment and Parks. These funds are going to be utilized for some bioengineering work in O'Brien Lake Channel. This is the connection between Flying Shot Lake and O'Brien Lake. We've had some issues with fish kill in the area. In order to be in compliance with Alberta Environment and Parks, we need to do a little bit of work to bring that up to compliance. In engineering services, we've issued tender for phase 3 of the road rehabilitation program, as well as the request for quotations for some new playgrounds around the city. One in Country Club West, Crystal Heights, Countryside South, and the Smith subdivision. As well, we recently closed the RFP for the 2022 and 2023 traffic signal inspection program. In transportation, our 5th round of snow clearing in residential wraps up today. We currently have pothole crews on every shift, so currently 24/7 filling potholes, hoping to make a little bit of a dent in the amount of potholes that are currently out there. In parks, with the milder weather right now, it is likely that we will be wrapping up the winter season for rinks, as they'll become pretty difficult to maintain over the next few days. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, I have Mayor Clayton in the queue.
Thanks, Chair O'Connor. Director Glavin, just a couple things. First one, so that it's publicly out there, if people are seeing significant sized potholes, what's the best process for them to report them?
Through the chair, thanks. It would either be through 311 or utilizing our online reporting tool on the front page of the city's homepage.
Perfect, thanks for that. And then the second question is sort of a 2-parter. Can you tell me approximately when Council will expect to see the alternative energy study reported to Council, as well as the labor market analysis that's in conjunction with the county, the Chamber, and GPRC, when we expect to see both those reports?
Through the chair, my expectation will be within the next 2 months. Those should be in front of Council, and I can get exact dates, but that's the rough timeline.
So both of them are around similar time frame?
That's my understanding, but I can confirm exact dates.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Have I missed anyone? Oh, Councillor Thiessen, no longer a director.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor, no longer a director either. Director Glavin, quick question for you, just in regards to 100th Avenue. You were talking about potholes before. It seemed like with all the trucks coming in to do the downtown area, that road got pretty beat up. Aquaterra came in and did some pipe work as well, and to beat it up more. And then, of course, the winter season never is helpful. And that road appears to be deteriorating quite a bit, considering it's a thoroughfare. Is that on our schedule for road repair, or at least an overlay this season?
Through the chair, it's your lucky day because it is, and I believe it's already been tendered. So that work should occur this year, 100th Avenue east of downtown.
Good. I only asked because I thought it was, and I wanted to make sure it was because the road is, yeah, nasty. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no other question, no hands up, we'll move on to 3.2, Wapiti River Micro Hydro Generation Verbal Update.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. So this is for the outstanding item 1184, and I was going to present a update. However, we lucked out, and we have the CEO of Aquaterra here today with us, and he's graciously agreed to speak for himself rather than me speak on behalf of Aquaterra. So he's going to give us a brief update of what they're doing with respect to different types of energy generation. The micro hydro generation that we initially discussed is one they're considering, but they have a number of options that they're looking at. And with that, I'll kick it over to Vaughn.
I guess I'm back for another performance. So appreciate the opportunity to speak to council. I know everyone's very busy, so I'll just give a brief verbal update. And if there's questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about snow removal. I'm probably not. You asked a question you were allowed to ask either. So I sympathize with those folks who are just in here. But I do just want a quick comment, just actually commend administration on the snow removal. I've lived in not being able to hold down a job. I've lived in a number of cities. And I have to tell you that based on what I see, the snow removal on the whole is spectacular. And I think it's a credit to the administration, and I think to council, the focus is and the results from my perspective are fantastic. And don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling or minimizing the challenges that these folks who were just here had, but I think it's important to get another comment on that. So, and you can expunge that from the record.
It's too late.
So really just a quick update. I apologize. I should have been a little bit more prepared. Just speaking specifically to microhydro, it is, we're looking at a number of different options to, really it fits into our strategy in essentially two sections, power usage and power generation. So it fits into our overall strategy on trying to reduce our input costs. And obviously everyone is seeing the challenges on costs for utilities and power. And so it's a driver on our core kind of assets to our core operation to reduce our power costs. And then the other thing is we see there's opportunities potentially to grow our business a little bit in this space. So we're considering a number of different options around generation, power generation. One of them is microhydro. We looked at that a couple years ago, and we had a very high level feasibility study looked at that. We have to do more work on that. It looks like there is some promise in that space. More work to come this year on that. The concerns we have with that is obviously introducing a micro hydro generator and outfall. There are some challenges technically around that. Obviously, we don't want to undermine the integrity of that system, but there is some opportunities there, and we're looking potentially at that as well. The other ones we are looking at as well is right now we do self-generate. We have the bioreactor landfill plus the two generating units at the water treatment plant where we actually generate power and heat, and the heat does go into the water treatment plant, and the power we use for our own use. And then we haven't been looking at the market, and where prices are high in the market, we're actually selling more to the grid as opposed to what we've done in the past. So trying to capture the opportunities on the market side, because again, the power costs are high. Other areas we're looking at waste to energy, which is an emerging technology. Obviously, it feeds into our solid waste management strategy, and there's opportunities there potentially to work on a facility where we actually turn our waste into what's called renewed natural gas, and to generate power and to use it, one, to offset our costs, and two, potentially to sell to the grid as well. Along that same line, we're also looking at initially solar and wind as well to generally offset. Now, those have a different power generation profile and potentially a different use for us, but we're also looking at those potentially as some small solar installations to essentially offset some of our internal use. Obviously, when we can use it during peak times, obviously sun shines during the day, and sometimes you can't count on wind, but that's also another opportunity, and we potentially look at that as part of a potentially a battery storage combination renewable installation. Looking in our strategy, we've committed to the board that we'll have those evaluated this year, probably for implementation into 2023 and 2024. That's my verbal update. Any questions?
Okay. I recognize Councillor Laners.
Yeah, I'm not sure the answer to this question, but there appears to be a bunch of grants and all those other kinds of things that many municipalities are able to ascertain as part of their clean initiatives and climate change. Does Aquaterra sit on the same footing as municipalities when it comes to the acquisition of those grants, or is there advantages for opportunities for us to do that on behalf or to help you out in that regard?
I think it's both. I think that there's grants available for municipalities. There's also grants for competitive private industry that would be looking to reduce their carbon footprint. So I think there's both. I know we also essentially we work with you to put in grants on the water wastewater side when they're available. So I think our folks do look at those opportunities and connect with the administration where there's opportunities for us to work together and to ultimately get grants.
Yeah. So one of the, when you're sitting at the board table, obviously you're looking at it from a business case, rate of return, all those other wonderful things. Sometimes the city has, we've got some climate reduction targets and goals, and it's a little different motive perhaps sometimes. So I would be curious to see in the end, just it may not meet your criteria sometimes, but for us to hear it and then say, well, maybe there's it meets a different set of criteria for the city, and potentially we could try and make something make sense from our end. But I'm not trying to prejudge the system. I'm just letting you know that I'll be curious to see the results of that, and then explore if it makes sense from different lens to do it one way or another.
Absolutely. We put multiple lenses on every project we do, and one of them is our ESG lens. And the board passed a new ESG policy last year in our last retreat session. So we're very aligned with the municipalities and the desire to get to net zero. And ultimately, I think there's opportunities for us to do that in a way that also returns some revenue to the municipalities and to the company.
So sometimes my brain lapses. So we're going to be meeting you, it sounds like, before summer for other reasons. When will you know of these alternative things and bring them forward to the shareholders? Will it be before summer or at maybe our next semi-annual meeting, or in between, I guess?
So it'll be in stages, I suspect. Right now we have active work going on a waste energy project feasibility study. So we're taking the next steps on that. We will be pulling historical information and essentially I've got background in hydro generation from a previous prior to Aquaterra, so we'll be pulling that information as well. So it'll probably be coming out in stages. We'll phase gate things. We've brought in phase gating for all of our projects. And like I said, we do look through a number of different lenses, including the ESG lens, which is, becoming very, very important to all of us. So I would say answering, we'll give you indications in the first session prior to the summer and probably give you some refined information in the fall.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Blackmore and then Councillor Bressy.
I've been a proponent of waste energy for the last 20-some years, and every time I've raised the issue, I've been told we don't create enough garbage to make it feasible. I believe that technology has changed significantly over those 20 years. The waste energy that you're looking at now, is that going to rely on pulling gas out of the landfill, or is it moving towards reducing our landfill needs entirely by creating, I guess, burning with to create generation of electricity and heat?
Yeah, so it's the latter. It would be ultimately it's to utilize the waste in a way that we can't use it now, and potentially could alleviate some of our recycling issues. I know there's a very big interest in the community around recycling, and I think some of the things, I think there's challenges globally with recycling. I think markets are disappearing for some of these materials, and waste energy would potentially be an opportunity to actually increase our utilization of recycling. Ultimately, long term, we're hoping that it will actually reduce our landfill footprint, and ultimately potentially even get into the point of where we're actually mining the landfills. So we see that both as an existing opportunity and as a growth opportunity for ourselves.
You just made me happy.
I just need to deliver now.
Councillor Bressy, then Councillor Laners.
Great. Thank you, Chair O'Connor. And probably no surprise to Vaughn that I get very excited when we're talking about recycling and starting to address what's going on globally. So very excited to hear that. Could you just remind me how the shareholder agreement works in terms of mandatory dividends? If we contribute own source revenue to generation things like this, does that attract a mandatory dividend, or are those mandatories just for water infrastructure?
Probably you need to be defined. I don't want to comment. I think there's room in there for other utilities. I think that traditionally what it's been applied when there's precedent is around the water, wastewater, particularly, but I'd have to come back with an answer, an interpretation on what is actually in the existing USA. So it does contemplate other utilities and quotations, and this could potentially be in that space, but let me confirm that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Laners.
Yeah, I don't know this. You may not know this question. It might just be rambling on my part, but when, obviously with this net zero and initiatives that many people hold dear to their hearts, do you know if burning garbage, creation of the CO2, as opposed to leaving it in a dump site and the ultimate creation of methane gases, if I'm pitching it to people to say, you know what, in the end it's a wash or it's better, is there a larger long-term footprint to burn it or to keep it in there and allow it to turn into, because the gas is going to escape, the methane gas. So has there been any research or studies on that? I'd like to be able to say, yeah, we're burning it, but that's actually better than leaving it in a landfill because of X, Y, and Z, and not just dollars, but just curious.
No, very good questions, and I think so. There's been a ton of research. Europe is quite a ways ahead of North America in this space. They do incineration, which is there's probably two major technologies that are available for waste energy. One is the burning or incineration. The other one is pyrolysis, where you actually don't burn the waste. You take it up to a higher temperature in an anaerobic environment and draw off the syngas, synthetic natural gas. So it's not burning. So it's a difference, and that tends to be where the European countries are going, because some of the I guess the full cycle evaluations on incineration, people are getting more and more critical on what is green, and so what we're looking at both technologies. Prefer probably pyrolysis, which tends to be more green. When you look at methane versus carbon dioxide, obviously methane has a much higher impact on the environment than carbon. We do capture methane right now at the landfill. This would be, any way you can defer or even exchange, and I guess it's a touchy subject, but you have to do the full cycle analysis. But if you exchange methane for CO2 in the long run, it's better. This should eliminate both.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your second and third presentation. Thank you very much. I was going to rule you out of order on the snow removal thing, but it was a compliment, so thank you very much.
I'm just following council's lead. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we will move on. There's no correspondence. And there is no policy review. And we outstanding items list, number 7.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. Today we have dealt with 1184, the Wapiti River Microhydro Generation, with Vaughn's presentation. And outside of that, everything else is on track.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Director Glavin? Seeing none, I don't see any online, so I need a motion to accept the Director's Glavin's report. Councillor Blackmore.
I'd make that motion.
Okay. That was carried unanimously. I will now adjourn the meeting and we will take a 5-minute recess. Thank you very much.